Constantly shifting through the time-space continuum, Metron's three disciples observe the universe from the Mobius Couch.
Hey, welcome to Mobius Couch. I'm Joe, one of your hosts, and the other hosts with me here are Patty. Hi, Patty.
Hey, Joe. Hey, everyone.
And by Patty, I mean Patrick, because that's what he likes to be called, but I call him Patty. And Alessandro, also known as Ali or Al.
Hello.
So we did the first two episodes on a comic book, and I feel like we've kind of agreed that most of our episodes are going to be about comic books, but we felt this was one, topical, I guess, and two, we wanted to talk about it. Why are we doing this? Torturing ourselves?
I'm going to be honest. I sort of regret this decision. I think at
Yeah.
the time it made sense, like we were going to vent about it, but now that I'm in it, I'm not looking for.
Well, now that it's been like 3 or 4 weeks, you're like, I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Yeah,
I just want to forget it existed.
And I think it's a good parallel to Mr. Miracle, because we rarely all three, enjoy the same thing or dislike the same thing. There's usually
That's true.
So,
I will say on a scale of the three of us, I hate it the least, I bet. I don't dislike it nearly as much as you two, but that's fine.
Yeah, but
anyway,
so we'll talk about, Justice League Snyder Cut, which is the originally intended Snyder version of the Justice League film that came out that was tarnished by Joss Whedon's paws. The Whedon version kind of flopped in theaters, and fanboys got mad on Twitter, and somehow that convinced Warner Brothers to spend an additional $30 million on letting Zack Snyder.
It had nothing to do with that. It was all about content for HBO Max. They could care fucking less about every single kid on the internet that wanted to watch this movie. It was just like, it's a pandemic. We don't have anything. What about that Snyder Cut thing they all keep yelling about?
Joe, I think you might be onto something, because I'm pretty sure 90% of the Snyder Cut was already filmed and done. So they literally just had to do shoots of like 10 more minutes of it or whatever. And they were good to go.
That's It was like they needed Flash for like 5 minutes to do his weird run, and then so he could go back in time or whatever at the end of the movie. That was probably it.
Well,
just run in front of a green screen with your arms going all insane.
Well, we can talk a lot. I mean, I could spend 18 hours just talking about Aquaman side of things, because all of that was bizarre. But
before we go into Justice League, did either of you, I already know Alessandro's answer, but did either of you enjoy any of the other Zack Snyder DC movies? Because I relatively enjoyed Man of Steel as a standalone movie. To see Superman and Zod fight at that level and
the city destroyed, that was fantastic. Cool, but I think the only parts about Man of Steel that I really, really didn't like was the overall tone, which is kind of the problem with Snyder's universe or vision of the universe in general. But also when he doesn't save his father, I was like, what in the fuck? But like, and that kind of like is a big enough problem that it almost ruins the movie. But like, I finally get to see Superman fucking punch something. So like that was like kind of amazing just in and of itself.
Well,
the special effects, it looked fantastic. I liked Man of Steel pretty much. There's not a whole lot that I was like, fuck this. But, it all just keeps going down from there.
Yeah. But that's something I wanted to bring up is, I don't know if we can talk about it now or it's better to talk about later, but the action scenes in Justice League were bad. Like even at all the problems I had with Batman versus Superman and Man of Steel, the action set pieces were like, set up pretty well, and it had decent action. Even Snyder's Justice League version, none of it was cool fights or action at all. I found that really disappointing.
I disagree with, I think Wonder Woman had a lot of cool bits. The bit with her deflecting the bullets was pretty fucking cool.
I think I enjoyed the end fight more in this version than the theatrical version was like super lame.
I barely even remember that, to be honest. Like I can't really cut.
It was just like milk
pretty much
there was nothing about it.
Well, let's come back to the fight scene. Let's kind of start macro on this and then zoom in.
Yeah.
One big point I wanted to make is a little bit of pushback, because I've heard a lot An opinion I've heard a lot of is on, well, by that I mean just on Twitter, online, or whatever, is people genuinely liking this version, saying, wow, this is a good movie. I wish we'd gotten this in theaters. Great Justice League movie. And I just want to enthusiastically push back on that sentiment. Now, I'll agree that, like, insofar as this is one director's cohesive vision of a Justice League movie, sure, it works a little better than the Whedon cut we saw in theater. But it's still shit nonsense of a movie in general. And it's not a good movie. And so I really just want to hard disagree on these takes out there that this is an actively good movie and we should bring back the Snyderverse and have more movies like this because they work. And I just really disagree with that.
Yeah, I would say it has its moments, but to be 4 hours long, there was so much time wasted on really unnecessary. I feel like if you were to give some random film student 4 hours to tell a Justice League story, you could come up with something better than what we got.
Well, in fairness, if all of the slow motion scenes had been regular speed, it would be a 48-minute movie.
That is true. That is true.
There was a lot of slow motion in it.
But the end result
and
is
not just with the Flash, because that's when you need it.
Yeah, but the end result is a 4-hour movie, which is about 30 Quibi shorts. I know Quibi is not the standard of media.
Do y'all want to start at the beginning? Because I have some notes.
I was gonna say, like, why don't we finish up that thought of it? Let's on a macro level, like, so we all didn't like it, right?
Right.
But on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give it like a 4. But you guys I feel like you guys are like on like 1s and 2s. Am I wrong?
No, 3, 4 sounds about right.
Oh, okay, well then
actually let's say 4 for each hour of runtime. It gets a star. So let's do 4.
Yeah, I agree with 4. I was thinking like 4 to 5, maybe. I do see how it's an enjoyable movie to watch if you're not really that invested in the characters or the story, and you're just watching.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of and Al said barely better, but I kind of disagree with that. In terms of being the last quote unquote movie in his like 3-movie run, like it did the job of wrapping up those movies fine. It just, those aren't the movies I wanted to see in the first place. So I think that's the main problem. But if you table that thought and you're just saying, how was this movie in terms of wrapping up those movies? And good, I guess. I mean, it did its job.
Yeah, so I'm gonna a fair warning. I mean, bringing this back to comics, I'm a little bit biased because I hate Frank Miller comics, including The Dark Knight Returns, and I know that Zack Snyder started with 300, so maybe that's why he's obsessed with Frank Miller. But even in this cut, you see the Bat Tank from Dark Knight Returns randomly at the end.
For like no reason, yeah.
And Batman versus Superman was clearly heavily influenced by that. So I came into this like, this isn't my aesthetic, I guess. I'm just not a big Frank Miller fan. And the Snyderverse is pretty heavily influenced by Frank Miller stuff. So I guess disclosure, I'm predisposed to be negative to this.
I mean, you can hate The Dark Knight Returns for whatever you want, but it changed Batman forever, and it's the Batman that we all know and love now. So I mean, you know. Back to Justice League. Let's see here. You were talking about let's just start at the beginning, Patty.
Yeah, for me, I took notes in sequential order. I think one of my big issues with the movie is they do a lot of cool scenes just for the sake of it being like a cool visual scene with not really it doesn't make any sense. And so
I think that's Snyder in general, yeah.
But so the movie opens with Superman dying and he screams, and I guess he has a loud voice. I don't remember it from that many Superman comics, but I did Google it, and apparently there are a few issues where he like blows stuff up with his voice. Anyway, so he screams, and for some reason, Superman's screams wake up the mother boxes. And so I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, why? So Zack Snyder said that the mother boxes knew Superman was a threat. So when they heard him die, that's when they woke up Steppenwolf. And I was like, that would make sense, except Superman's only like 30 years old, and the mother boxes have been there for like millions of years. So I don't know.
Patrick, don't ask these questions.
So
that's what I'm saying. Like the visual of Superman being stabbed and his sound waves going out to the planet was cool to see.
Hard disagree. Hard disagree.
All right.
So, all right, quick. I'm going to jump in here real quick. I just thought this was a bizarre way to open the movie. I thought like the sound design was like this weird muffled, unclear thing, and the color was off. This felt like a screener beta version of the movie. Like the credits hadn't run yet, and there's this slow-mo sound wave of muffled noise waking bullshit up, and bad way to start the movie. That's all I'm going to say.
I think part of that muffledness is that they don't want to actually break our eardrums, but they want it to show it. You know, it's like that same thing with like every time they have Black Canary in a live action thing, like on the Arrow show or something, and she screams, or on Smallville, you're like, what are they going to do with this? Because they can't actually have hyper sound just like ripping our eardrums out. But so they always do some weird like, wah! And it like does ripples or whatever, and like it's the same shit. Like they just don't want to like destroy our eardrums. But
it's not a steady low volume. It's like a wow, wow.
Yeah,
that's the wave
like
of the sound.
Like space frequency hum thing.
And
it's weird. It's weird.
Well, that's why I was like, did Superman's voice go out in a weird specific frequency that it was very unclear. I had to Google it and research to understand why Superman's dying scream woke up the mother boxes. But
I think so. Here's the thing, and the thing that the main problem with that is that it's based on the assumption that they knew he was there to begin with, but if they're awake enough to know he's there, it doesn't really make sense as to why him dying would wake them up all more than they already were. And then, you know, like it's just
none of the apocalypse invasion mother box thing makes any sense in this version. And I don't know why they came up with this convoluted 20,000 year history behind everything when you could just make it, well, Darkseid's invading now, here, let's whatever. I mean, all you have to do is just say Steppenwolf is the first wave of an invasion and they're here.
The problem with most of comic book movies in general, but like they tend to the ones that don't work, they tend to overcomplicate things when you're just like, you can just make it a simple story. I mean, like we've been talking about this for so many years, it's hard to like say this again to you guys, like you haven't heard me say it before, but it's like, just make Die Hard and make it a character instead of fucking John McClane. Like you don't need like hours and hours of backstory. You don't need to explain who. I didn't know who John McClane is. I just saw him show up at a building and suddenly he started kicking ass. I was like, woo, this movie's awesome. You know, like just, you know, Green Arrow on a train and there's bad guys. Like that's all you need. Like you just,
well, they were going to do
action movie, stick a guy in.
Yeah, they were going to do
I know. Yeah, I brought that up.
Movie, but
yeah, I brought that up. We've been bringing that up. That's the perfect example of what they should be doing and why what they're currently doing doesn't work.
What the Green Arrow Supermax?
Yeah, like it was just supposed to be like he goes to a prison to like break someone out because he needs them or something like that. So like it's just Green Arrow in prison and that's no setup whatsoever. He just like is in a prison and there's a bunch of fighting and you know it's Green Arrow.
When all the mother boxes are waking up, the camera cuts to each one. And so like the Atlantis mother box is guarded by a bunch of people. The one on Themyscira, there's literally like 100 Amazons staring at it 24/7. And then the one on Earth is just fucking in Cyborg's closet. Like, and then even when it goes to the next scene, it shows them getting the mother boxes for the first time. Like the Amazons do all this crazy stuff to protect it. The Atlantans do all this crazy stuff to protect theirs. The men literally dig a hole that is maybe
like,
I don't know, 2 feet deep.
maybe 6 feet deep. Maybe.
It's not even 6 feet deep because the mother box is only like maybe 12 inches and it's like barely deep enough to cover it. And
it's like that is probably one of my favorite parts of the entire movie. I was just like, what in the world? And then it's good. It works on the assumption that no one's gonna go there and find it. But it's like if you just the idea of normal human progress, you're just like, why isn't that just sitting in some guy's basement or something? Like at this point, just like, Look at this weird thing we found when I built my house in the suburbs of New York or whatever the fuck. It's really funny.
Since you brought up the Amazons, because this is something we talk about every episode apparently now, this movie passes the Bechdel test because it has scenes of only women who are named, because the Amazon Queen and a few other characters have names, and they talk about not the male protagonist of the movie. So this Zack Snyder's Justice League passes the Bechdel test.
Does it pass the Mako Mori test?
Wait, what's the Mako Mori test? I don't know that one.
So that's the character from Pacific Rim.
Oh, okay.
See what it is. Mako Mori is a set of criteria pertaining to the representation of female characters. I'll figure it out later and send it to y'all.
No, I think I don't know if this really passes the test. I mean, Wonder Woman is a character, but she doesn't have an arc of any sort in this movie. She just is Wonder Woman.
She's awful in this movie. We'll get to that.
So passes the Bechdel test, fails the Mako Mori test. Although, in fairness, nobody has an arc in this shit film. But
yeah,
Cyborg
has an arc.
That's true. Yeah, in the Snyder version, that's true. Unlike the Whedon version, where he doesn't exist. But in the Snyder version, he does have an arc.
I bet if Whedon could have cut him out of the movie 100%, he wouldn't have been in the movie. Like, that's how I was like, what the fuck? And I'm not really, I don't pay attention to all that bullshit, Hollywood bullshit, so I don't really know what the deal is with that, but man, they did not like each other apparently.
Well, after seeing the Snyder version, I kind of get what Ray Fisher was talking about, because I'm like, okay, they did take you completely out of this film, so I kind of get what you're saying.
Part 1 is called "Don't Count on It, Batman." So it's all that stuff we've just been talking about, and then Batman goes to recruit Aquaman, which is kind of a hilarious scene when you look back at it, because they're trying to pretend like Aquaman doesn't exist, and it's like, who could it be? And you look around the room, and it's like all like old, shriveled up white people, and then it's Jason Momoa, who's, I don't know, he's
gigantic.
Why?
Beautiful brown hair, and then he's got those like eyes. He's got the contact lenses where it's like sea green eyes. And
but Patty, his back was to Bruce at first.
Well, it's just really like.
It's like I just love that. I want to see that room like 5 seconds before Batman walks in, and they're like, "Quick, hide!" And he just goes, turns around. Aquaman, hide! He's here. He just turns around and I faces the corner. Can you see me?
So
you know how eyesight works, right? Are you a 3-year-old?
So the whole Aquaman thing, I'm going to rapid fire some shit because none of it made any sense. So he's Pacific Island Atlantean who lives in Norway, and Norwegian redheads sing hymns at him as he goes to the ocean. Why? Atlanteans,
I don't think he lives there.
To talk, they have to make an air bubble to then normally speak.
Yeah,
well, Aquaman can't even do that,
so
he can't talk to anybody unless another Atlantean makes an air bubble for him. Yeah, it makes no sense.
First of all, stupid that they did that. Secondly, in Justice League, Mira and Willem Dafoe talk to each other using like dolphin clicks. So there's 2 different forms of communication. But I just feel like it's very obvious that Aquaman and I guess most Atlanteans can talk to sea creatures. They're technically sea creatures, so why can't they just use their telepathy to talk to each other? Like, why go?
That's what they should have done.
Again,
and that's what they did in the Aquaman movie itself, which is one of the main things. He was like, no, we're fixing that. And I was like, good job, James Wan.
Yeah, but the Justice League version is nonsense.
It's insane. It is the dumbest idea ever, and they immediately changed it. And yes, it's something to rip on. However, they fixed it later, so move on. Next thing.
Again, it's another example of them where it's like, this looks really cool. Let's add it to the movie. And then we'll just say this is how they have to. It just seemed, like, I don't know, either Snyder or some exec at WB.
I think Snyder makes every movie he ever makes based on like a really cool looking scene with another really cool looking scene with another really cool, and he just hopes it kind of works, and at the end he has a big fight, and like that's how he makes movies. He just doesn't make movies in a logical manner. It's all just based on how pretty it looks, which it does look pretty some of the time. Most of the time, it looks pretty cool. Like, he's not bad at making something look cool. He's just bad at making a movie.
I don't know about most of the time, but what
I don't
about
know. A lot
we
of
gotta
that
talk
shit
about
looks pretty
Aquaman shirts, which are littering the ocean. Every time he jumps back in, he takes his shirt off.
Yeah,
like, I don't understand that at all either.
I don't think I ever would have thought twice about it, but he has the same exact shot of him taking off his shirt and walking into the water. Like, you can't do that. Like, that was the second time he did it. I was like, so does he just leave wherever he's at, show up without a shirt? They have a shirt waiting for him.
And then he puts it on, and then before he leaves, he takes it off.
Yeah. And he has like a little cult following of those Norwegian girls that are sniffing his stuff. It's
and then singing songs for extraordinarily long lengths of time.
Oh, yeah, that was bizarre. They do go a little bit of Alanis Morissette there at the end, though. That was kind of cool. But overall, unnecessary footage. And also, I thought maybe, is it to blend in? Because I was like, well, maybe he needs it for warmth because it's cold there. But then he gets into freezing water.
No, he doesn't need it for warmth. It's clearly, that was another part of their hide him from Batman plan. Put on this coat. It's not yours. Wait, now turn your back to the door. He'll never know it's you.
And then we get to a key theme in all of these characters for the movie, where Bruce says the world needs help, and Aquaman just says, I don't give a shit, I'm not a hero, and leaves, because none of these people want to save the earth. No one in Snyderverse wants to help the earth.
Him and Wonder Woman do. Flash joins immediately. What are you talking about? He's all in.
Aquaman and Cyborg do not, though. I do get
that's true.
Alessandro's point, especially with Aquaman. Why is he so pissed off all the time? Because his mom abandoned him? Is that his whole thing, that he's just angry?
I don't think he feels like his mom abandoned him. I feel like he feels like the Atlanteans took his mom from him and then killed her, maybe, or something.
Yeah.
And then because of that, he hates them, and all they want him to be is the new king, and then all he wants to be is nothing to do with them. And I think that's kind of what it is. But why are you mad at everyone else?
Exactly. That's what doesn't make sense. I get if it was a threat specific to Atlantis, but Bruce is like, the entire...
Yeah, we're talking about, that little village that you like to help out all the time and save on the king tide or whatever. Like, that's part of the earth. Like, I need your help. I don't know.
Also, so after Aquaman rejects him, Bruce goes back to his mansion. We go from Sassy Alfred to Wonder Woman at the museum.
Yeah.
And I struggle with this scene because it was probably one of my favorite scenes, but at the same time, one of the most frustrating ones. Because everything leading up to her saving the hostages with deflecting the bullets and everything was very cool.
Yeah. And then she kills that guy.
Yeah. So she killed, I think, a lot of those guys, because I was watching.
Well, fair enough. Yeah.
She killed multiple guys and throws him into the wall, and his skull cracks the marble wall in half. I'm pretty sure his neck broke just then.
Yeah.
But the last guy she kills, it was just so unnecessary to use that the bangle.
Yeah.
Blast.
You could have injured people out on the street. There's cops and shit down there.
Well, the crazy thing is they actually get the camera angle from the outside, and you see the debris go and nearly kill a bunch of police officers. And then the motherfucking guy's hat floats down to the ground, implying that she completely disintegrated his body in front of all these children. And it's like, if he was a supervillain with powers, I'd get it, but he's just a normal guy, and you just beat up his entire crew within 30 seconds by just like slapping them and punching them. Why was it necessary to do, again, Zack Snyder was like, you think it would be cool if we have this big explosion?
Yeah.
That'll look cool. It won't make any fucking sense, but it'll look cool, I guess.
Also, it's disrespectful to her character. Like, she wouldn't do that. Like, that's even giving him the fact that she's smacking people in the walls. I'm fine with whatever. I'm fine with that. But it's like, come on, man. Like, there's children there. She's saved a bunch of and then she turns right around and goes like, everything's fine now. And she's like petting a child's head, and you're like, what the fuck?
It's so bizarre. She turns around with this weird smile on her face, and it's like these kids.
Like, she literally like cleans her hands off, like, well, dealt with that problem. You guys are all safe. I'm surprised when she turned around, they didn't all go, oh, like they were gonna, like she was gonna kill them, because like
she's like, it's all okay now. Like, no, these children are going to have trauma and therapy for the rest of their lives, because every time they go through a public place from now on, they'll think about that time they were almost blown up by a bunch of terrorists.
Yeah. I mean, they probably already would have, even if she had just disarmed him or something, but like...
Well, it's just that she wasn't concerned about their well-being. She was just like, I did it. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to, I mean, any of these Snyder movies, they don't save people. Like they kill bad guys and as a byproduct save people.
Yeah.
The main like focus of their action is never, I must protect the innocent. It's, well, I've got to fight this giant monster, and like collateral damage of that is saving a couple lives to my right. Whatever.
I mean, I know we're backtracking, but Man of Steel, it was very cool to watch and see two Kryptonians cut loose in a city.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, Superman could have just flown Zod into space and just kind of threw him. He didn't have all his powers. I mean, there were so many things he could have done.
He had most of his powers at that point, right?
During the fight, I think he starts getting more like his...
Well, once he like strips off the armor and stuff, like he's straight up.
Superman should just flew him up into space and fight up in space. But anyway,
that was the crux of Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice, was that idea that like he just destroyed a city fighting Zod, and I mean that's why. Although, well, whatever. I don't want to talk about that movie, but
I mean, you could look at it in the sense of like. So here's the thing. So initially when I saw that, I wasn't like, what the fuck, Superman's not like, he's just smashing through buildings. But like, if you look at it in a theoretical arc that never happens, of like, this is his first real thing that he realizes he needs to defend people. And like, he changes from that point. Like say the second movie deals with him being more Superman-like. And by the third movie, like, this is the Superman we all know and love. And he's grown to become the greatest hero on earth. That would have been fine, but like it's like when you take that first movie and that's it, you're just kind of going like, what the fuck, like that's where we go, okay. And then he dies in the second one, and then you're just like, what the fuck. And then he has supersonic mother box waking up screams in the third one.
Well, the other thing about Man of Steel that I loved is in that fight, you know, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of people they murder, but then he kills Zod and loses his shit.
Yeah.
Like the millions of innocents he slaughtered, but Zod, that's like a crisis.
Millions, come on.
Whatever, however many, more than 5 people that he murdered by tossing Zod through 8 buildings 5 minutes ago. But killing Zod himself causes a real crisis.
I think in Batman versus Superman, there's like it's one of those like letters or something that Bruce gets, or something like that. But they mentioned the amount of people, and I was like, and it's astronomically small, and I was like, no fucking way. Like it was like 800 something or something. It was so insanely small. It was like so much less than 1,700 buildings crumbling to the ground would create.
So if you think about 9/11 was like several thousand people died, right? And let's say Superman and Zod destroyed 17 skyscrapers.
Yeah,
which they did more.
Probably.
So 17.
I don't know if they did more than that. I think the pounding earth machine thing did a lot more than they did, but
well, still,
maybe they're running off the preconception that the city was being evacuated because that earth tilling machine was smashing the ground and everyone was running already, and
all right, well,
most of the buildings were empty.
How many buildings do you think they destroyed real quick? 15, 20? What would you guess?
I feel like the entire city was in rubble, wasn't it?
I feel like the center, if you call like ground zero where that Kryptonian machine was that was like ripping the earth apart, them fighting, I think they only took down like 3 or 4 buildings maybe.
Oh.
But that thing ripped the whole like a hole through the ground, and it was like crunching buildings down, and like You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Pancaking
I meant
cars.
more Superman himself fighting.
I don't think Superman and Zod ripped that many buildings apart.
Well,
I mean, they flew through buildings, maybe.
It's got to be 3 9/11s at least, right? Let's say 3 9/11s. So that's like 9.
All right, so
10,
six
people.
buildings, 6 big ass buildings.
Yeah, sort of about 9 to 11,000 people, I think, keeping it at the
right.
9/11 number. You know,
I mean,
anyway,
yeah,
a lot of
I
people.
think that's reasonable.
A lot of people died.
If Snyder was smart, he would have done a quick little throwback and would have shown the Flash saving everyone from the city. That's what I would
That is smart. It's very smart.
After Wonder Woman beats up the museum heisters, it cuts to Steppenwolf going after the box on Themyscira. The only note I had with this was that at the very end, Hippolyta tries to shoot an arrow into his face, but the guy is covered in metal, apparently like living armor that like moves around, and all of these perfect shot Amazons are shooting their arrows directly into his armor. I'm like, shoot for his face, all of you at the same time. What are you doing? Just shoot at his face. What are you doing?
Okay, now that we're at Steppenwolf, let's talk character design. Why are all the Apocalypse people giant monster freaks? Except for
I don't know, because they're aliens.
Warren is Granny Goodness, but other than that, everybody on Apocalypse is a gross monster thing. And in the comics, Darkseid's kind of like a stone-looking dude, but the rest of them, I don't know, they're not that monstrous. I disagree with that whole look of just
the whole premise of it.
Monster beasts being always the bad guys.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care that Steppenwolf was turned into more of a monster. That doesn't bother me. In particular. But like, why is Desaad a monster guy? I don't know. Like, there's certain ones that I'm just like, that doesn't make. I mean, here's the point. If the new gods exist and they're theoretically like Zeus and all of them were, which were human looking. And you go off that, if you run off like that idea, and then like Apocalypse is like in keeping with the new gods, then why are they all monsters? I guess because it's hell. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know.
He also has an Omega rib cage.
Yeah, which is very bizarre.
Darkseid?
It just feels like a concave. Like you could get to his heart a lot easier and just murder him. Like it doesn't. You know what I mean?
Odd, because I feel like this version of Darkseid is the least intimidating version of him I've ever seen, and I'm including the Darkseid in the Justice League cartoon, and even in Mr. Miracle when he's eating a veggie tray. That Darkseid was more ominous than this one.
Darkseid sitting quietly on a throne and then eating a carrot was one of the scariest Darkseids I've ever seen.
I don't think Darkseid had so many lines in this movie. I think it's better for him just to be that really scary looking guy in the background that doesn't say. Darkseid just really came off as a very generic, again, back to your point, Al, like if they just made all the other Apocalypse people look like they do in the comics and look like humans, that would make Darkseid look a bit more ominous, him being the only freak.
But if he's just one among monsters, and then
he just didn't seem that threatening. And also your first introduction to him, I get that it's the first age of man or whatever, but so he's younger, I guess. But it's weird that he was in the front line of the battle and not back hanging out. And then to see him get beat up by Zeus and Ares taken out by Wonder Woman, it just, the first time you see Darkseid, he gets his ass kicked, and that just doesn't set up a very threatening villain.
Not at all. Yeah.
I do want to talk about
how he gets beat up so badly that he doesn't even remember where Earth is.
Well, that's a whole other thing we could talk about that makes no sense. But I do want to mention how ripped Zeus was in this movie. Like, that dude is
that guy.
He is unreal. He was like an action figure in real life.
He not just in it goes beyond that, Alessandro. It's like he was literally like He-Man action figure, like just muscle on top of muscle. The proportions don't make any sense whatsoever. He looked like a cartoon character.
Was he CGI?
But he was real life. No, he's a
real dude, right? But if you haven't seen the movie, Google image search Zeus from it. Like, I've never seen anything.
There's like a picture of like that dude and like the guy that's Ares too, and then the woman that is Athena or Hippolyta, not Hippolyta, but one of the other Aphrodite, maybe, I don't know, one of the gods. But like the three of them are just standing there and they're like smiling, like, hey, we're about to go shoot the movie, you know, like kind of like that kind of shot. And it's just like, that guy is like 2 times bigger than the Ares guy, and the Ares guy is gigantic. It was, I was like, how? I don't understand. His shoulder muscle is my entire upper body. Like, I don't even understand it. It's freakish.
It's like a Rob Liefeld drawing.
Oh my God, it was insane. I don't understand how he exists as a human.
I don't either, but I just had to bring that up because I remember watching that and going like, what is that a CGI creation or a real human?
Yeah, I thought it was fake too. And then I was like, is that a real dude? It looks like a real dude. Yeah.
So anyway, so Zeus defeats Darkseid, and they take Darkseid away, and then he forgets where Earth was for whatever reason. Again, why have this backstory at all? Why not just start with here they are?
Exactly. Why?
Conquer you.
Why did we need this?
They make like subtle implications that there is one, a multiverse, and two, thousands upon, no, she says trillions of planets that he's conquered or something like that, which is just fucking insane, first of all. But like, it's also just like, well, I get that space is vast. And then if you're talking about a multiverse, you know, that's infinite. So like, you know, like you could just go on forever. But I mean, like, assuming he has the technology to travel through multiverses and conquer planets of that many planets, that being said, it's like, you don't know like roughly where you were. Like, I mean, like, I understand being like, hey, which planet in that, wait, even which solar, I'll give you which solar system. There you go. But it would take you, I don't know, 200 years maybe to find out of, you know, 700, 800 planets that actually support life, which one was the one you were on. Not thousands upon thousands of years or whatever, however long it's supposed to be. Like, what
how about anyone in your army just like take a note?
Yeah.
Yes.
Write it down. Any one of you. Any one of you 10,000.
Well, I mean, his army is filled with parademons and they don't have brains. But I mean, like,
yeah, that's true.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I don't know. But even so, 2 things. Yeah, someone from his army should take a note. Secondly, to your point, their technology is so advanced. Like, my cell phone lets me know where to park my car. When you know what I mean? Like, y'all didn't have any type of like. It's just the reasoning behind why he forgot Earth is where the anti-life equation was, which is like his whole purpose in life.
Yeah.
It's why he's conquering all these other planets.
It would have made it 1,000 times more interesting if the mother boxes had woken up or whatever, and Steppenwolf had come to Earth and then realized that it was here, and then informed Darkseid, or maybe not even informed him, in the hopes that he could deliver the anti-life equation to him and be like, look, I'm awesome again, right? You know, because that's his whole goal, is to like redeem himself in Darkseid's eyes. It's like, maybe if you make it his discovery that he wants to bring to Darkseid and he keeps it secret or whatever, or maybe Darkseid just finds out about it at the same time he does, who cares? But like, knowing that it's there ahead of time and then forgetting that it was there is the stupidest fucking idea I've ever heard in my life. So dumb. You could have just, the slightest tweak to the story could have made it like so much better.
Yeah, that's the thing that I find just baffling, is why write yourself into that corner? Like, there's so many other versions of this that you can create where you don't have to explain on Twitter, oh, well, it's because it happened a long time ago and you know, space is big and they forgot. Like, just don't write that stupid story. It's so easy to just redirect it so that either A, there's no past flashback anyway, which is the simplest answer, or even like Joe said, B, just have him discover the anti-life equation later. I mean, I just
if he didn't know it was there,
set it up to have these contradictions.
Here's another problem. We're talking about Darkseid. And this is a character that you and the three of us know very well. But I mean, like, at the same time,
we all
maybe our listeners don't. But like, this is a guy who.
I mean, whoa, Joe. Alessandro doesn't even know how the Omega beams work.
That's true. He doesn't even know that they're not laser beams.
I know how they work. I asked a reasonable question.
He also thought that Cyclops' beams were laser beams.
They're laser beam.
They are
they're not.
Well, whatever. Optic black. Okay, we can rehash this discussion, but I think
anyway,
it's valid
my
to
point
ask.
Being, so Darkseid is a guy who, if he loses a fight, he would come back to that planet like next year. You know, like not like thousands of years later. Period. Like he would just be like, they fucking beat me? No. I'm coming back with way more guys. We're gonna destroy this fucking place. You know, like he would just stop at nothing to just come back. Like one of the things in the cartoons that was super cool is he fought Superman and Superman turned him back, and he did nothing but plan on getting back to Earth just to beat Superman because Superman beat him, and he was pissed that Superman beat him. Nothing to do with the anti-love equation. He just wanted to win, and it's like, you not only did you beat him, but he knows the anti-life equation's here, and he's not finding this play. It's insane.
Another nice contrast with what we talked about last time, because we mentioned how deftly Tom King dealt with the anti-life equation, and it's actually depression and all of the thematic content there. And it's just funny because in this movie, the anti-life equation is a fucking glyph in the ground.
Yeah, what?
I mean, it's just like magical nonsense. I just thought it was a nice contrast between the comic we discussed last time.
How dumbed down it is for the movies. Yeah.
But Joe, that's a good point about Darkseid, because I do remember the storyline where Supergirl comes back and she kind of lost by Darkseid. She almost becomes a Fury, and Batman threatens to blow up Apocalypse if he doesn't release Kara, Supergirl.
Yeah.
He releases her and he's like, "You're free to go." He immediately shows up on Earth like 20 minutes later and starts beating the shit out of her. Like, I said you were free to go, but I'm still going to kill you. You know what I mean? So yeah. It's odd that he would just.
Because he wouldn't. That's the point. Because he wouldn't not come back. He would stop at nothing to come back just because he lost.
And back to Alessandro's point about like, why would you write yourself into a corner like that? That's the frustrating part, is that this is Snyder's like vision, that he's been thinking about this for years. Like, why your job is to just make just make the story make sense. Like, why you could have had that whole scene. I get you want to show the Age of Heroes, but you could have sent Alabak or someone else from Apocalypse, brings the mother boxes there, gets beaten back. Steppenwolf comes back thousands of years later because mother boxes are already there, gonna go check it out, finds the anti-life equation. We don't have this stupid problem.
Right.
Because that's the point. If this whole setup was in the Whedon cut, it would make sense, because you're thinking, okay, two directors, maybe they shot the flashback in a different version and it doesn't make sense, so I got that. But this is the Snyder version. This is his version, and it still has these contradictions that don't make sense. Okay, back to the not beginning, but so after the Amazon attack,
they flip back to Aquaman. This scene was very strange to me, because Aquaman saves this guy on a boat, brings him into one of these random bars in Norway or
fishing village. Sure.
Fishing village, throws the guy on the table, tells everyone in the room that when he wakes up, make sure to tell him to respect the storm. Like, he's acting like a hard ass. And at the last place, everyone was obsessed with him. But at this place, everyone is just like really uncomfortably staring at him. And he gets uncomfortable. And it's even more awkward because everyone else is like bundled up in jackets and he's wearing a tank top. And it was kind of like,
he says every line in that bar as if they just saw him save the guy from the storm, but no one else was there. And he walks in the room going like, this is what just happened, and respect everything. It's respect me because I'm awesome, and fuck this guy and tell him to respect the storm and give me some whiskey, and it's on him because I just saved his fucking life. But none of them know that at all. And he just goes like, it's on him. And he walks out and I'm just like, what? But if I was the bartender, I would have been like, no, it's not. Who are you? Did you beat that guy up outside? Why are you wearing any clothes? Why are you soaking wet? What the fuck is going on? Get out of my bar.
But then he gets from that, he takes the entire bottle with him. And
he orders a whiskey and then just goes, just like a cartoon character.
Like, I appreciate them trying to reinvent Aquaman, but I think they just leaned a little bit too hard into like the, bro Jogan.
I mean, I don't mind his portrayal of Aquaman. I was always a huge fan of hook hand Aquaman from the 90s with long hair and a beard. So when they cast Jason Momoa and he looked like that, I was like, oh, okay, cool. But Man, they handle his character very strangely. Let's get to the what is it? There is one thing that I really liked, and it's so I think we should talk about something that we like for a change. I love Flash pushing his finger through the glass and saving Iris. I think it was awesome as fuck.
That was a very good scene. I agree.
I did not like that scene at all. I just
you're so insane.
Why?
Again, one, it just looks cool. So period. Just fucking looks amazing.
So I'm gonna partly.
It's hilarious because he's instantly in love with Iris, and then he's like, "Oh, hot dog," and that was funny and weird. And I just like adorable. I liked it.
Well, I'm gonna blame this on the X-Men movies, but I'm so over these cutesy scenes of like music and speedsters moving through a slow motion world. Like I'm just over that. I don't want any version.
You're probably not gonna like that Flash movie.
Yeah, I'm not lining up to see that. But that doesn't do anything for me. Like just have him zip around and do whatever. I don't want to see him move through a slow motion world to spin hot dogs and shove them up his butt or do whatever. I'm just over it.
What do you want out of a Flash scene? What do you want? That's kind of what I'm at. I mean, like, I understand that you're like, I'm sick of it. I've seen it. But what do you want?
Just a Flash moving around and stuff gets done. I don't know. I just don't need the slow motion stuff. I have no patience for it. I have no patience because I know what's going to happen. He's going from point A to B, and he's going to do cutesy stuff and spin things and pats, whatever, and music, and then it's done. And it's like, that's 3 minutes of my life, and you went from point A to B. I don't need that.
Yeah, I get your point. Because it would be it was cool the first time I saw it with Quicksilver and that X-Men movie. And I did enjoy this scene just because it was Iris. And I think there was a few things they did with his like shoes exploding off of his feet and the rubble kind of going underneath his feet.
Yeah.
But
the glass liquefying basically as he put his finger on it was amazing. There was little things that they did for the first time, and I think better than the Quicksilver scenes, but you're right, it is redundant.
But you never.
The thing that I want to ask for is, why can't he just run? That's what the Flash.
Well, no, wait. We'll get to the Flash run. I can't. Why? Why? Just we'll get to the Flash run.
Tell me you researched it and have an answer as to why he can't. Please tell me.
Patty, what were you gonna say?
No, just that it would have been cool. It would have been a cool idea. The only time you see him running really fast is when he's, running to build up a charge to charge the mother box or whatever. It would have effect, and I don't think it would have cost much for the VFX department to just like throw in little things of lightning around, like showing that Flash is pretty much fighting all of these parademons or something while Aquaman and Wonder Woman are in regular speed fighting. It could have been a very simple thing they could have done to give him
like have like a red streak with lightning bolts zip through and like a parademons gone, and then that's it, and just like going out all over the place. Yeah, I completely agree. They should have done more of that.
Or Aquaman could be about to get stabbed by a parademon or shot, and then all of a sudden
that he doesn't even know is there, kind of thing. Yeah.
Can we talk about Barry's dad telling him not to complete college?
We'll get to that. Let's get to that.
What was that about?
He doesn't want him to.
Hold on.
His dad's like, no, don't finish college and get your degree and get a job.
He's like, just get out of here.
I was like, kind of respect it because I know he's doing it because he doesn't want Barry to waste his life on trying to free him from prison. But
yeah, he could have said something along the lines of, "Stop spinning your wheels, major in something else."
Yeah,
but he did. He said like, quit college and just get a shitty job or something.
Yeah, and he gets very dramatic about it because he tells Barry to put his hand on the glass. They're in prison talking on the phones. They're putting their hands up against each other, and very dramatically he goes, "I want you to give all that up."
Like, I understand what he's saying. Like we said, we understand what he's saying. He's saying, "Stop trying to get me out of jail." Like, but at the same time, what's actually being said is,
"Don't go to college."
Don't go to college, which is the fucking funniest message in the world.
And again, it would have taken one line. He could have been like, "But you always wanted to be an artist, or you always wanted to be a scientist. Don't waste your time with criminals."
Yes, that would be very interesting.
Make that scene just make more sense. And, instead we got that, which I also really enjoyed that entire scene.
It was a good scene. I mean, Billy Crudup is fantastic, and he like makes everything good, even if it's like, even if it's the worst scene ever. He made me forget that he was telling him not to go to school.
Billy Crudup has the weird ability to make me feel safe, but also in a lot of danger at the same time.
Yes, completely agree. That's so weird.
He has a very calming, like dad-like voice, but his face is very intense and it scares me.
Yeah, and serial killery.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
He's got like this, like, I could murder you at any moment, but I'm calm.
Any moment.
No, I totally agree. He's got strong,
very calm
serial killer energy.
Yeah.
But so Barry interviewed at a dog store, a pet store, a doggy daycare type thing, which I'm assuming like nothing. And before that, he was unemployed. He goes back to that warehouse.
No, he mentions having like 3 jobs, and that was like his 4th job or something.
Oh.
He was talking about getting like he was talking about getting a 5th job so he could finally pay for school, like totally his tuition or something.
So
and then his dad's like, "How do you have the time for that?" And he's like, "I make my time." You know, like kind of. So he's doing all the jobs at once, kind of thing. Is the implication?
I kind of get. That's interesting. So that would have been a thing that would have been cool to show him literally.
Yes, you could literally have shown him. That would have been a fun super speed thing to show. Anyway,
instead we got this weird, shitty indie pop song while he's slow motion, spins hot dogs and spins whatever. And
yeah,
over it.
I forget what scene this is, but I typed in, Diana still isn't over Steve Trevor. Jesus Christ, girl, get over it.
So Patrick,
it's when she's talking to Alfred.
I was going to say, Patrick, that's any scene. Any scene ever in any film.
Character is Steve Trevor. Yeah. Everything she says is about, and it's funny because it's almost like she tries to steer every conversation back to her. She's like, "Oh, that's because Lois is Superman's love. I had a love once. He like a." You get it, girl. Like, Jesus Christ. And also
talk about herself a lot.
You knew that is what, maybe 7 days. Like how much time did they actually spend together? And she has been for like a century.
I know which. So one, it's not when she's talking to Alfred. Sorry, it's when she's talking about Bruce about the plane, and she's like, I knew a man that would have loved to fly this. And he's like, no one can make it fly. And she's like, I guess you will. And he's like, no, I can't either. I'm just trying kind of thing. And she's like, I knew a man that would have loved to fly it or something like that. And I'm just like, God damn, dude.
But that's a weird tangent. So the Wonder Woman movies that are like supposed to be all about women and empowerment and all that are like weirdly, both the original and 84 are like all about a dude. They're not really like, it's weird how focused they are on a man and not even so much Wonder Woman. I just found that weird.
Yeah, Wonder Woman 84 was awful. I enjoyed the first one overall, but it was weird. She really prioritized Steve over everything else. And we knew him, like, I don't know how much the timeline was in that first Wonder Woman movie, but I feel like they were only together for what? A few weeks, a few days, a month?
I mean,
weeks or months, because there were like time skip montages, I think, but not more than months. Like not
a lot though,
or anything. Yeah,
I think by the time they like actually leave and go out to the front lines or something, they talk about it only being like a few days before like such and such happens. Yeah, and that's like basically the end of the movie. So like it's not weeks. I think it might be a week, like a week. You know, like. And really, they basically, to fall in love, so to speak, they really only have that like one night where nothing's happening in that one town.
And going back to that same idea of heroes that aren't heroes, in that Wonder Woman movie, Steve Trevor takes the poison plane and saves the world, while Wonder Woman fights Ares for no real like none of these heroes are heroes. They don't save people. They just fight other superpowered shit. And if they happen to save a class of schoolgirls, as a side note, great.
But then if they do, everything's fine. Everything's fine after that.
Anyway,
all gonna be okay.
Wonder Woman movies are about men. Open your eyes, America. They're both those movies are about men. Does Wonder Woman 84, that movie might not pass the Bechdel test, because in the scenes where she's talking to
Yeah.
Kristen Wiig,
I don't know.
all they talk about is Steve Trevor again. All they talk about is her ex-love.
We're definitely not watching that movie.
Okay.
I'm trying.
Can I talk about Steppenwolf crouching?
Real quick, before you talk about Steppenwolf, this is the cyborg part of the movie, and I think just to be cool with Joss Whedon, I think we should just skip it entirely and move on to the next part.
Ooh, too soon, man. That one's
Sorry, what were you going to say about Steppenwolf?
I know we've touched on this, but that is pretty fucked up. Like the Whedon version, Cyborg is in like 5 scenes with the rest of the team, and that is it. I mean, that's
central to the story whatsoever in the Whedon version. Like you could take him out of the story, and I think things would have worked out pretty much the same.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, I think if he could have removed him 100%, he would have done so.
Yeah, it's weird. And in the Snyder version, I mean, he has scenes all about him and for him, and I mean, it's just weird. I mean, that was completely gone in the Whedon.
What were you going to say about Steppenwolf? Before I interrupt you.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed this, but throughout the 4 hours, Steppenwolf just breaks through walls, breaks through doors, axe smashes everywhere, except for when he goes to Star Labs and Cyborg's dad is locking himself in the room. There's this electric sliding door, and Steppenwolf like gingerly crouches through it and slowly drags himself through. When throughout the rest of the movie,
he doesn't want to be disrespectful. It's a glass door. You don't just break someone's door.
I just thought it was hilarious. Why that door? Like, why?
He's a man of science.
He's just you see him bend down and like test like the door. Now. It was unreal. I just thought it was hilarious.
He was trying to practice his manners. It made sense.
The only door on earth he respects.
He's like, what is this door made of? Glass? Well, I should probably walk around this one. It's wood or bricks or stone. I'll just smash through it.
That he didn't just want to slam through. I just thought it was bizarre how that one sliding door. So since we were talking about parademons, did anybody notice like something that I thought was weird was when they showed the like police sketches of the parademons, they looked like Batman. And I thought they were going for some kind of weird thing where Batman was going to get blamed for stuff, but then it never went anywhere. I thought that was a strange decision.
I think the idea was that it could be Batman as well, but you're right. They never like followed through with that thought process. Not even once did Commissioner Gordon go like, wait, didn't Commissioner Gordon at least once go like, yeah, I know what you're saying, but you're wrong, or something like that?
Yeah, they show the sketch at the beginning, and it very clearly looks like Batman to the audience. Yeah. And then another cop brings it up to Commissioner Gordon, and they're like, this is the guy that's been kidnapping people. Does he look familiar? And Commissioner Gordon just basically shrugs it off and says it's not Batman. But
so they do kind of address it.
But I thought they were bringing it in because like they really focused on the drawing. I thought it was going to be something like where it becomes problematic for Batman that he's getting, but then nothing.
Really they don't have enough time in a 4-hour movie, Al, to like.
It's true. Yeah, I mean, 4 hours, no time for subplots.
Yeah, no time for a Batman subplot where he's blamed for kidnappings.
So can we talk about the rescue? Because one thing I wanted to mention about the Whedon version, and give me a minute to explain this because again, I don't like the Whedon version. I don't want to sound like I'm pro Whedon version. However, I did appreciate that, for example, like in the rescue sewer scene, they make a point to where like Flash is nervous and Batman talks to him and just says like save one person, then save another, and then with the Chernobyl family subplot, which was again stupid, like the execution was completely wrong. Yeah. But I did appreciate the Whedon Cut's attempt to make these people at all concerned with saving humans. And that like actively saving lives was a goal and something they talked about. Again, the execution was bad and it was a mess and the Whedon Cut's bad. But I did like that. Like I did like seeing Superman save a school bus or whatever and Flash trying to save a family. Like them actively helping people, I appreciated. And in this version, the Snyder version, it's completely absent. I mean,
the Batman pep talk I liked.
Yeah.
The overarching problem with what you're talking about, you're right, is completely horrible and rampant to this movie. But the rest of that crap from the waiting thing, I'm just like, ugh, whatever, man. The fact that there's people living near a radioactive, anyway, it's just insane. It doesn't make any sense.
Again, I'm not defending the actual product
I know
of it, but I do
again,
like the idea that we are shown these heroes saving people. But so and I don't know if you want to talk about anything else about that, like sewer saves.
I have one other comment about that, and it just goes back again to, I think, them just wanting to make a very cool visual, but it adds nothing to the story. There's a scene where Wonder Woman's falling off, her sword slides down.
Yeah.
To grab her sword, and the Flash does this whole slow-mo thing. He runs down and he taps the sword into her hand while she's falling. So Barry put all this effort into getting the sword into Wonder Woman's hand. I'm thinking she's going to turn around and throw it at Steppenwolf, maybe do some damage, or she's going to use the sword for some reason. But she just jumps to the ground. And it's like, you could have just, I mean, the same thing would have happened if the sword just hit the ground first and then you just picked it up when you got there. Like, it didn't.
But he helped her in super speed, Patty.
Yeah, but it's still kind of like, it just didn't amount to anything. It would have made.
No, you're right. It was dumb.
She did something with the sword.
Like, if she had then grasped the sword and like pivoted and thrown it back at, like, that would have been fucking amazing.
That's what I thought was going to happen. And she literally just grabs it. It was basically so she could have, a cool superhero landing and a cool shot.
And another Flash note, and I know this is a ridiculous point to bring up, and I mean, he's got metabolism and healing or whatever, but man, he wipes out in some of these scenes and like would be paralyzed by, I mean, he slams into shit.
Yeah, and his like, not just slams into stuff, but it like lands in a way where his back is against like a staircase or like a really sharp piece of rock, or like right in the small of his back, like multiple times.
I mean, like hits him in like through
into stone stairs.
Yeah,
I mean, to be fair, in the first scene when we saw the Flash in this version of the movie, he did slide across concrete while it just like rippled under his feet with like 0 damage. So I mean, like,
I
clearly he can sustain damage at high speeds, but like, god damn.
I get that it's a ridiculous comment, but some of those falls he took, like I like shivered at. Like they were intense.
I would assume,
like, his head smashes off something and then he hits a rock and you're like, god damn.
I would assume if you were to ask Zack Snyder, you would just say it's the speed. I just assume the speed force while he's at that pace kind of protects him from,
like, cushions him
fast in the first place. My bigger issue with him falling outside of the fight with Superman, because Superman's also pretty fast, he should never trip. Like, I don't understand how the Flash ever trips over anything. If he's moving,
because he's new. But again, they imply that he's been doing this for a while, like at least maintaining multiple jobs at the same time.
But that's what messes it up when they do the slow-mo things where he's moving in regular speed. Even if he were to trip, things are still moving in slow motion. Like, he should be able to recover very easily.
Yes, when he trips, it's like everything cuts to normal speed and he just flies off, and you're just like, why didn't it just stay in super speed mode and just like pivot and step again and just keep going?
Yeah, but this is an age-old Flash problem. I mean, even in the comics, like, Captain Cold will throw a bucket of water on the ground and he slips. And because he can't, he's a super fast god who could do anything. So you just have to manufacture ways for him to trip or whatever. Otherwise, there's nothing to do. I mean, that's
why his best villains are super speed villains. That's why that's hands down why every single great Flash villain is a super speed villain. Because they can't. There's no way around it. Like,
otherwise,
how does he ever get surprised or fucked up from anything? Like, it's just like I saw that coming from like 8,000 seconds away. Like, I had so much time.
Yeah. But otherwise, you just have Captain Boomerang tripping with a boomerang, and you're like, what?
Yeah, like, even Weather Wizard has lightning, and like I'm just like, yes, it's lightning, but I mean, how slow is the lightning moving to him? Like, it's the speed of light, and he's not traveling at the speed of light, but at least he has like a millisecond to be like, oh, there it is. and start to move out of the way.
I'll play devil's advocate here because I feel like they make a point to say, like, the Flash, his rogue, villain of what is it? Rogue of villains?
Rogues Gallery.
Rogues Gallery. His Rogues Gallery. They work together in a group, like they're a gang.
That's true. Yeah.
All together, and they fight Flash regularly, so they're kind of prepared for his moves or whatever. Whereas like Batman's villains rarely team up, and if they do, they typically end up fighting each other as much as Batman. Whereas Flash's villains are always very organized.
That's true. I mean, they call Batman's villains a rogues gallery, they say the same thing about Flash. And honestly, but his villains are literally called the Rogues because they are like a gang of like weirdly powered supervillains that all team up to like take on one guy that can beat the crap out of them individually. So that's a fair point.
Yeah, but it's still, there's just no way to do it without it being contrived. Because even like if you remember that scene in Identity Crisis where Deathstroke plans all these bombs to guide Flash to where he wants him to be so he could stab him. I don't know if you remember that scene.
Vaguely.
Yeah, but that's like, even that is kind of like, oh, Deathstroke's so badass, but like, it's still pretty contrived. Like you'd think Flash, even if you guided him to where your knife was, Flash could just be, oh, a knife.
Well, I mean, he's not always at top speed. I comprehend that. But it's
Flash is like Vin Diesel. He lives in life in sixth gear, always fast.
That's who they should have cast as the Flash. He'd be a very serious Barry Allen. I always feel like Marvel movies are just like snatching up every single person on the planet, and they're like, "What do we have left? I guess get Amber Heard. I guess I don't know." Like they don't have anyone left to pick. There's no good actors anymore. They're all in the Marvel movies. What do we do?
All right, Joe. We're at the 1 hour mark, so maybe we should put a pin in the whole casting conversation. And maybe we cover the rest of this review of this lovely Snyder Cut movie in episode 4. Is it episode 4 that we're gonna? Yeah, I think it's episode.
Yeah, 4, right?
Okay.